Hey, everybody. Hope everybody's all right. A little something here. Take this. And let's do this. This shouldn't be too bad. What if I do this now? Doop. No, that's the bad one to do. That's the good one to do. How about this? Some waterfall on the screen, on the wall from whatever I'm listening. Hey, everybody. Welcome aboard. And hope that everybody's all right. I'm checking out here Radio Thailand, signing on 13750 for the B21. I see a peak on the waterfall, but it's not strong enough. We are in the middle of possibly a geomagnetic storm right now. So we're going to see how that goes. Let me open this here. And tonight's going to look a little weird, but that's life. Sometimes, here we go. Sometimes life is like that. And we're going to try to have things better. And the next show, nice to have everybody on board. Always cool to see everyone. Familiar names, handles, and just a great gang of people having fun with radio, and that's all that counts. It's like crooked, eh? Is it crooked? How crooked is it? Oh, it's crooked like this. Okay. But, oh, it's not crooked because the camera is crooked. Okay, I just understood now. But there's something about the camera that makes it crooked. I don't know if I can do anything about that. Maybe here. Here we go. Like this. It's less crooked like this. Hey, everyone. Welcome aboard. And this is the Shortwave Radio live stream. We are live every twice a week, actually, with, invisible waves that bring great signals to a distant place. And it's really a lot of fun. Let me just get comfortable, a little more comfortable here. There we go. So, hey, everyone. Welcome aboard. It's nice to be here. And tonight, we're going to talk about radio, as usual. You know, that ancient art of listening to distant signals from far, far away. You know, it's one of those things that's kind of cool. 0UT, let's check out, I didn't check out a lot of stuff today. 9690, if you guys were searching for Spain is on 9690 now. I'm just going to try something, guys. Just going to try to do this slowly as not to break anything like I just did. Here we go. And anyways, nice to have all of you here. And we are going to, so I'm checking out, I'm going to probably have a screen here in the next month or two to compensate. There's a screen there for 55-inch, probably another 55 here. And that's going to complete or help complete the studio with different little things and lighting and all. It's nice to have all of you. Let me just, I want to check something here. So if I turn this off, of course, it's too dark, but the background is better. How about we turn it on and we choose a color? There we go. That's green. That's blue. Something that you can see my face still. Here, my face is red, but you see the background a little better. So we can actually tune the bands, and you guys can see possibly. Out of curiosity, can you guys read the frequency that's here? Just out of curiosity. I don't know if you guys can or not. if you can't. Anyways, doesn't matter. Um, so it's nice to have all of you here. And of course, we listen to the radio, have fun with radio, and just, yeah, look at that 13732. Okay, cool. Well, that's a start. It's even better. So it's even better than what I thought. It's a little fuzzy, yeah, but it's there. Okay, cool. Thanks, guys. I know if you're on a small screen like a phone or a tablet, you probably can't see that, but it's better than nothing. Anyways, my name is Joe. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, northeast part of North America, and we talk about radio. We tune radio. We live radio. We read radio. We breathe radio. We eat radio, and we consume radio in unhealthy ways, probably. That's the way it is, as we are, of course, a bunch of amazing fans of everything radio, and some of us that just can't let go, even though shortwave has changed over time. Um, I was looking at, and even me and Sheldon, we were talking, was last week or a couple of weeks ago. Well, we were recording the International Radio Report about signals from in the 80s or 70s and stuff. And I came across a schedule of what, it's not that far away, what the B01 schedules were. B01, that's 2001, 20 years ago. And if you go on eibispace.de and click archive, you'll see a B01 there. They have the archive up to 2000. And you're going to look at that schedule and you're going to cry your heart out. You're going to get drunk and you're going to try to forget that even only 20 years ago, shortwave was like that. Radio Canada International, Radio Norway, Radio Denmark in Danish, Radio Prague, Radio Bulgaria, Radio Slovakia, but all from their own countries. No relays or anything. Argentina from Argentina, and so much more. You look at that and you're like, yeah, when somebody looks at that and comes to me today and says, well, there's nothing on shortwave. Yeah. Okay. I'll give you a point. I'll give you a point on what you mean. Cause when I saw that, and it was like this week or last week, it's like, oh God, pretty crazy. And, it makes you reflect. Over the years that I've been doing this live show, I've been trying to, so I'm the guy that's hyped up. I'm trying to bring you guys into listening to the radio and doing stuff, and I try to post videos of what I listen to and what I hear and what's on the air and all the crazy things we can find and the unusual things and the pirates and the weird signals and the number stations and it's a hard work because if you've been in a hobby for a long time, you know that it's a little different. Yeah, it's a lot different. And to be always positive and hype up the hobby is a tough one at times, because at times you sit down and you're like, one of those tough times happened this afternoon when I tuned a 19-meter band, heard WWV, and the only other signal I heard was WRMI with Supreme Master on 15770. And I was like, wow. In 1985, this would have been, even though not very strong, station after stations, and you get there and you try to stay positive because you look at the signals and you look at what it's all about, and you try to say, look, it's different, and there's tons of things still, and so on. But there are times when, you even I sit down and I'm like, wow, I hype up this channel. I talk about radios and I test tons of radios. And, you know, you test radios, but I've never had so many radios, but I would have loved to have them at that time in my life where I was active as a young teenager, amazed at everything out there on the radio dial. And and it's cool that there's still radios, and it's cool because there's still quite a lot of things to listen to, even though it's not what it used to be. But you sit down sometimes and you consider yourself the guy that's trying to hype shortwave to a bunch of people, and a lot of people notice. And I mean, I've never been so in there in the hobby, and my name has never been mentioned so many times around the world, everywhere, with what I do now. Um, and people take example and say, well, that guy, he's talking shortwave, pushing us into the hobby. Um, and he's got to stay positive, and he's got to stay like everything's cool, everything's fun, and there's things out there to listen to, and be live and do hours of shows and like just hype up, you know, the the shortwave hobby. And that's where you've got to see exactly what shortwave is all about. Shortwave was divided into so many categories depending on who you are. And of course, that was showing in the amount of amazing different clubs, all the different clubs that existed. So you got a long wave club, a medium wave club, or AM radio club, and you got a shortwave club, you got a utility club, and you got different spaces of things out there. And depending on what you like and what you want, that's what happens. You are in there in a hobby, explaining stuff to people, and you got to understand that different people like different things, and you end up noticing one thing. Even though it's different, I think I still have today as many signals that I find interesting to listen to, even though there are less. I think I'm more of a listener because it's easy to, I mean, 80s, 70s radio, shortwave radio is like a overwhelming experience. It's like there's so much you can't focus on all of it. You have to focus on specific aspects of it and specific broadcasts. And when I look back and when I try to remember my 80s listening, I don't have 80s listening of I heard 300 stations. When I go back in time in my head, it's a handful of stations that were the ones I listened to. And there was all around it the other baggage and the other stuff that sometimes I'd go through. And so you start thinking, it's like, well, Radio Canada International, and there was, Voice of Russia, well, Radio Moscow, actually. There was Voice of America that was easier. There was the BBC that was like, that evening thing that you could listen to on 5975 all evening. But when you start seeing what actually you were listening to, when you start thinking about it, you weren't listening to 50 stations. You were listening to a handful of stations. And the bands today might be quiet compared to that time, but I still have a handful of stations to listen to. It's like too much is also a problem. Having too many things, it's like having 400 channels on the cable. You might have 400 channels, but there's so many channels you'll be listening to in general. And at the end of the time of a year or 2 years, you'll notice that you listen to 7 channels out of the 400. And I think that was a pretty big deal of what we were. There were DXers. We wanted to listen to those oddball signals that were very, very unique and weird. But you end up thinking, and if I have to remember what I was listening to in the 80s, BBC, Radio Moscow, West of America, Radio Berlin comes to mind, um, HCJB, then maybe Radio Bulgaria, and a couple of these stations like Radio Prague, which was Czechoslovakia when it was united together as one country. So there was only Prague, and Slovakia didn't exist yet. You end up listening, and it's like Radio Australia, and there were these oddball signals that were like more like a time of year, like now. Radio New Zealand is a summer thing for me, unless I wake up in the morning. You end up thinking that if I can count 10 signals today, it's roughly 10 signals I was listening regularly back then, even though there was a sea of signals. So you can take the big picture of, but all the stations were there and all the countries were there, and say, well, there's nothing today. Fair enough. But at the same time, is how many of those were you listening to exactly? And, I looked today. Today, I tuned in bands. I was doing other stuff. I'm in one of those weeks of kind of a little complex week where you're like, you got to distract yourself from regular, day-to-day stuff. And today was like, I turned on the ATS-25, the Texan PL990X. Tune around and checked what was on, and of course trying to find in the B21 schedules that are kind of incomplete almost everywhere. What exactly am I listening to? And you end up to, I listened to the Voice of America this afternoon. I heard BBC 12095 was good enough for News Hour at, I believe, 20 hours ET. I heard NHK Radio Japan French 9855 from Madagascar. That's the regular B season schedule for the past few years. I got acquainted with a few signals that thanks to AOQ list, I could identify AWR from the transmitter site in Austria. I heard AWR French from Madagascar. I heard a few things like that, and I mean, you still are amazed, and I'm still amazed at all the signals, and I'm still amazed at shortwave. Even though there are times when you have a hard time being that positive guy that wants to push shortwave, and us all these people's watching, and people, newbies that are like, I bought my first radio because of you. And you're like, yeah, you got to be positive, and you got to think there's stuff out there, and there's still interesting stuff out there. I think the people that are the most negative of the hobby are probably the ones that are too focused on a very specific aspect of it. I'm a guy that's open to listening to everything, No international broadcast. I'll be on the ham bands. I'll check the utilities. I'll be everywhere. I'll check what number station is going to come up. I think that is what keeps me alive in the hobby and wants me to continue doing this. I listen to many things. I'm interested in a broad aspect of the hobby. But when somebody comes up and says, well, I bought a radio hoping to listen to BBC, and I'm like, yeah, you're very focused. You're too focused. All you want is listen to the BBC. Well, listen online. It's online. You can listen to everything BBC online. Don't buy a radio for one broadcast or one broadcast station. I think you're wasting your time. You got to be open and listen to all sorts of stuff and be amazed. And I look at the Facebook group, and what I like on the Facebook group is vodka cranberry, by the way, is I see all of these people enjoying a broadcast, not necessarily in the language they understand, but you see that they're happy because they've posted that the signal comes from Madagascar, from Botswana, from whatever area around the world, and you can see they're just amazed at one very simple thing. They're listening to a signal on our radio in their home, wherever they are, that is thousands of miles away or kilometers away. And it's just cool. And I think that's the spirit of radio. I think that's the spirit of having fun with radio, and just checking out what's happening. There's so much interesting stuff. And one of the things that comes to mind is, in North America, I think there are two regions over the world that shortwave is like the if you live there, you're in the worst part of the world to listen to shortwave. One of them is North America, and the other one is like Australia. We're kind of the abandoned regions of shortwave broadcasters. I think a lot of stations decided that, you know what, North America isn't worth it. People don't listen to shortwave there anymore. And it's funny because when somebody in Europe tells me, well, there's nothing to listen here, it's like, well, you ain't listening enough, because when I use an SDR in Europe, or when I look at the schedules on shortwave on the internet, I would be happy to have what you guys in Europe actually listen to and can listen to. And for those that say, well, we don't have a lot of stuff to listen to, I think is you should just look at the noise level around you, because when I use the Kiwi SDRs around Europe, you hear so many broadcasts. It's like more than 10 times what we hear in North America, if not more. And you hear it well. If you don't hear anything, check your setup. Your setup is wrong, or you have too much noise. Because I'm sorry, I've used enough Kiwi SDRs around Europe to know that, dang, in Europe you hear a lot of stuff, not counting all the pirates that are there and on all the rebroadcasts of stations like Channel 292 and so on. Man, take the time, because you obviously, if you hear nothing in Europe, your setup's wrong. Too much noise, like I said, or I don't know. Check your antennas or whatever, and the times you listen and the frequencies you're tuning. I'd be happy to hear, what's in Europe here in North America, honestly. And it's less than it used to be, but man, you guys are really, are in a great place. Of course, in Asia, but Asia is dominated with, I think the thing that I hear all the time is, well, I am located in whatever part of Asia. It's like all I hear is Chinese everywhere. And of course, if you tune a Kiwi SDR in Asia, it's like the 70s here in North America. It's like stations jam-packed everywhere, but it's all Chinese or Asian language broadcasts. Not a lot of English, or for people like us. I mean, if you listen to or understand Mandarin, you're happy. You got tons of stations there, but it's kind of interesting, And from time to time, you have this moment of doubt and this moment of, I got to be positive about something, and positive about radio tonight. And so as you see, I am talking tonight a lot. And anyways, still a great hobby. And I am, happy. I've got the opportunity and the chance I mean, for a lot of you even watching, look at that lucky bum there on the live show. He's got all the radios in the world and having fun with them and testing them when I got one and I don't can't afford another one. And I was there. I was there for a long time in my life. Can I afford something? Why did I sell my DX302? Why did I sell my Panasonic RF2800? Why did I sell some of the radios in the past? Because if I wanted a new radio, the only way to get it was to sell an old radio to have enough money to buy the new radio. And today I'm in a very fortunate time where, I can afford so many things, and I have gifts from different places and different people, and I purchase, I have enough money to purchase my own radio to test out and play with and show you guys. And I'm sure somebody out there, and not just somebody, I'm sure a couple of there must be a few of you out there that are like almost jealous. It's like, well, that guy's got everything. He's got that H501, that expensive thing that I can't purchase. And unfortunately, that's life. It's some people unfortunately have more and the opportunity to get more. And I'm when I look at what I have today, and when I look at how for such a long time I had radios that weren't very good. I wish I had something that was as good as I have today to listen in the 80s, and be able to tune in the 80s about all the you know all the signals that I just missed because I had crappy radios. Um, at least today I got good radios, and they're put to good use. I mean, I use radios and I enjoy listening. So my name is Gilles. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, northeast part of North America. We are twice a week. We are here on Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Actually, starting next week, it's 7 p.m. Eastern. But if you're on UTC time, it's UTC 0 hours Universal Time. Thursday, technically, for most people. On Saturday, we will have our show at 20 UTC, but it's the last time that it's at 3 p.m., 4 p.m. Eastern, sorry, because starting the other Saturday the 14th or whatever, I'm trying to, so we're what, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the 13th, Saturday the 13th, will be at 3 p.m. Eastern. Still 20 hours UTC. UTC never changes. Only the local time changes because of our time change. So remember UTC time, and it'll never have a problem. 0 UTC or 20 UTC. So, and we talk about radio. We have a chat room, which is fantastic, with amazing people that are just there to have fun and have fun with radio in general. And Facebook group, official SWL channel, if you missed out. Also, I'm part of some amazing things. One of them is being co-host with Shell and Harvey of the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal. The International Radio Report is a show about radio every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. On CKUT on the Eastern Time. And of course, we have ckut.ca. You can go for the archive. We have our YouTube channel, youtube.com/International Radio Report. And please do subscribe if you like our show. That's posted within the hour every Sunday. It's a show about radio locally and internationally, not just shortwave, all aspects of radio that exist, including journalism, including radio stations struggling, including all sorts of, this week we have an interesting story about radio stations in Ontario that are going off the grid because electricity is too expensive and they're using solar panels to power their stations and so on. We're talking about all aspects of what radio is all about. So hope that you can check that out. The other thing where is super interesting. You want to be part of a club, part of a gang. Of course, you are here, part of a gang already. The Canadian International DS Club is a great place to be. CIDX is a Canadian club, but it's not just for Canadians. It's for everybody. We have the Messenger, which is a bulletin that we actually issue every month. And you can ask for a sample copy, by the way, at cidxclub.ca. cidxclub at yahoo.ca. Did I just .com? Sorry, let me start that again. That was all messed up. CIDXclub at yahoo.com. CIDXclub at yahoo.com is where you want to ask for a sample copy. CIDX.ca was the website, but it's down right now, I believe. Of course, there's tons of information in that bulletin that is electronic, PDF every month. I just submitted last night my utility column for the month of November, and there's tons of information that could be very useful. You're part of a club at the same time, and you can join in. And of course, if you never ask for a sample copy, once again, CIDXclub at yahoo.com, where you can actually ask for a sample copy, see what the bulletin's all about. You like it? Why not join? It's inexpensive, $10 for a year, $25 for 3 years. And you'll get that bulletin every month in your email that has all sorts of information about radio. So, I'm a busy guy, and then I do the live shows here. I do the videos on the channel, and there's so much going on. So it's a complex and long journey of radio. And, if I wasn't convinced about how fun radio is, I wouldn't be here, and I would not be doing these live shows. So, after 33 minutes of babbling about everything, I'm going to take a sip of my drink, and I'm going to start looking at the chat room. Cheers, everyone. Bobby Burgess, WA5107 SWL in Morgan City, Louisiana, USA. Nice to have you here. Domitian Alexander Kennedy. Nice to have you here. Marvin Motz, nice to have you on board from the Japan Islands, AK4VO. Blind Picker, Rom, nice to have you here from Connecticut. W0RAB, Blind Ham. Hey, Graham, nice to have you on board from Milton, Ontario. We're supposed to, right now here, it's exactly 1.8 Celsius. So it's like 34 Fahrenheit. And we're supposed to have in the city, because around the city it's been already frosting. But in the city tonight is our first official frost, probably. Randall, nice to have you here from the Chicago area. Matt, MDK2, nice to have you here from Denver, Colorado. KW1161, nice to have you here from Tucson, Arizona. Dwayne, nice to have you here. Wholly Unaware, nice to have you on board. WA9326 SWL in Southern Illinois. Mark, nice to have you here from Oak Creek, Southeast Wisconsin. WA9278 SWL. What else do we have? Mark Cope, WA513. Missing a number there. SWL in Dallas, Texas. Good evening. Rob in Phoenix, Arizona. Nice to have you here, my friend. 84 Fahrenheit. Charlie, W8CFO from Columbus, Ohio. Nick Sharp in the UK. Nice to have you here. Dave in Indianapolis. Nice to have you on board. Says Mary B21 to all. Says Radio Romania back on 7325. REE, Radio Exterior España back to 9690. Cool. 6115 is WWCR in Nashville, Tennessee. Absolutely. David, KJ4CMY, nice to have you on board from Central Georgia. Brad, nice to have you here. William Helms, nice to have you on board from Florida. Paul, nice to have you on board and from Southwest Michigan. Chris66, nice to have you here from Kentucky. Kamagzi 1976 from cold West Michigan. Nice to have you on board. Winters Winter's getting here slowly. I can tell you that. Joe Tyson, nice to have you here from Apex, North Carolina, KM4WRQ. Noilson, nice to have you here. Brazil is in the house. Nothing like Brazil being in the house. Brad, nice to have you here. Jim F, nice to have you here from Rhode Island. We have WF7I Homebrew, nice to have you here from rural Virginia. Finally seeing some below freezing lows. Jet Crafter, nice to have you on board from southern Maine. And messing around with new Conicom GP7 while watching. Cool. Have fun. WF7I Homebrew is doing some FT8. RJ88 Dakota, nice to have you here from Winsville. Always cool to have you on board. Matt has a low but copyable signal for Radio Thailand in English, 13750. Rufus Newt from the chilly Laurentian Valley, Ontario. Nice to have you on board. Simon Templar, nice to have you here from damp Portland, Oregon. What else do we have? Christian Marcoux, salut, et j'espère que tu vas bien. Nice to have you here from North Bay, Ontario. Zen Farrows, nice to have you here from Westchester, New York, with the FRG 700, the 700, FRG 7 and a satellite 800. Cool. Great radios there. The importance is to have fun with all of this. John Beckham, nice to have you here from Northeast Florida. So people can read the frequency. Cool. Rob, okay. Jay Watterson 69, nice to have you on board, my friend Key. What else we have? Rufus Newt, hard freezing coming tonight, -8 Celsius. Wow, colder in Montreal. Here it's supposed to be -1, -2-ish Celsius. Ronald, nice to have you on board, and it's always cool to have you here with a new XH Data D901 receiver. Okay, interesting. CJ, got tired of shortwave. Just bought a retro Bluetooth speaker and play my own shows. Yeah, Bill, you know what? It's not shortwave. Shortwave is much more interesting. If you're tired of shortwave, you're not expanding on what everything is about shortwave. I can tell you that. David, KJ4CMY, found a Facebook group of people who DX medium wave stations with crystal sets. No power. Cool. There's all sorts of people out there doing so many things. And you know what? In 2021, there's still a lot of people enjoying radio. Jeff King, nice to have you here from Jacksonville, Florida. XNADXer Keegan, nice to have you here from Northwest Arkansas. John Beckham says shortwave radio is as good as you want to make it. And there you go. Hey, Sean, 2E0XBT, nice to have you here from the UK. Pretty early in the morning there. Andy New, nice to have you on board from the UK. No problem. I know that you are in a very late night, early morning almost. So, but nice to have you on board around midnight, 1 a.m. there in the UK. We have Angpar, nice to have you here. Glad to be here again. Almost missed it again. Kenneth and Ford VKF. Hey there. Welcome aboard, my friend. Where are you located? Oops. So Hank Parr wants to get into radio, but doesn't have a good rig yet. Hey, I'll get there. You'll get there. Carl Icon, nice to have you on board. Analog TV is totally gone. Times change, signals change. What else do we have? It's going to work. You know, Angpar, the 450D is going to work for shortwave, but for international broadcast listening, you know, for everything single sideband is going to be amazing. But I have one here. For international broadcast listening, there's much better out there. What else do we have? but it does the job, and you'll listen to shortwave everywhere. Christy66, Cold War helped me shortwave interesting. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Angpar, the 450, what you got to understand is a transceiver for amateur radio is a shortwave radio. Amateur bands are shortwave. Shortwave is a frequency range. It's not something special in what it is. It's a frequency range. Shortwave is a frequency range that has a lot of different signals. You have amateur bands, but you have international broadcast bands, and there's tons of things first on my YouTube channel about it, and there's tons of things you're going to check out for listening to the international broadcast bands, the stations, utility stations, amateur stations, and so on. It's mostly knowing where to listen for the things that you're looking for, because amateur transceiver is shortwave anyways. All the amateur bands, at least above like 80 meters and above, are shortwave. And shortwave, remember, is not a specific thing. It's a band of frequency that reflects off the ionosphere. It's 3 to 30 megahertz. And in there, tons of things. Amateur stations, utility stations, number stations, international broadcasts, amateur radio operators. There's tons of stuff, all in the frequencies there. And like I said, the 450D is interesting for SSB. It's going to work great for all sorts of things, but I would not choose that radio unless you got it for like almost nothing. Of course, get it, and you'll listen to international broadcasts. But that's not what I would choose, because for AM listening, which is international broadcasters use AM mode, it's not the best radio for that, I can tell you. What is also interesting? So remember, the 450D is just a shortwave radio. Amateur transceivers are shortwave. That's all. Shortwave has amateur bands, has utility, has international broadcasting, has utility, has everything. It's a frequency range. It's not a specific type of broadcast. That's all. What else do we have? Thomas Tamaro, Radio Nigeria, Call Israel, Pyongyang, Voice of the Islamic Republic, calling your radio. I miss them all. Well, Pyongyang, which is now Voice of Korea, still exists. Nigeria can still be heard. They're still on the bands. It's just irregular. All India left pretty much a lot of what the English is, but All India Radio is still there. Iran is still there. So, half of what you just mentioned is still there. You just got to work a little harder. $0, nice to have you here. KD2ANN. Angpar, does Radio Reference or Repeater Book have those lists? No, those are not good for shortwave. Shortwave, we have our specific websites that have all the details of shortwave listings. Radio Reference and Repeater Book are for VHF, UHF stuff, not for shortwave. Roberto Rojas, Chin Chin, nice to have you here. Now, utilities are like military, Civil Air Patrol, Air Force, and maritime stations, aeronautical communications over the Atlantic, Pacific Ocean. You can hear the planes. These are what we call utility stations. So, What else do we have? RGDA Dakota have noticed a much wider array of different programs than WRMI and others since Registeris passed. Realization that is finally setting in. Well, that's good because that means there's a lot more stuff of interest that might come up. And you know what? I hope WRMI can really diversify that schedule because it is just positive for all of us to have more and more off of that. Valmet Engpar is a weather broadcast station on shortwave. So, for example, Gander Radio here in Eastern Canada gives weather for the different airports around Canada on the HF bands for aircraft. There's in the UK, there's Ireland that has the Shannon station, which also broadcasts. There's military volmets, which are like the Royal Air Force here in Canada. We have the Trenton Military in Ontario for the all the weather broadcasts from different military bases in Canada. Andy New loves utility stations, and ham bands love the transatlantic aircraft. So, there's a lot of stuff. Brent Fraser Wetterall. Nice to have you on board, VA3BFW in Ontario. John Beckham says, some of the best fun I have ever had was building a crystal radio when I was a young boy. And also, you're great putting up a long wire antenna also. Cool. Yeah, but you're talking about VHF, and we're talking about air bands and aircrafts that are on the shortwave bands, which is transatlantic aircraft. You'll hear a plane over the Atlantic Ocean, for example, or the Pacific Ocean, checking in with the air traffic centers that are actually regulating what's happening in over the oceans and all the planes in the air in between the continents, basically. Zero 100 misses the HF to ship to shore comms. There's still some. If you listen regularly, you might hear the off transmission from here and there. There still exists some, but of course, compared to 20, 30 years ago, it's very different. Steve in Melbourne, Australia. Nice to have you here. Says, after 30 odd years of listening, heard my first 10-meter contact because I just left it there and waited. Japanese station calling CQ. There you go. After 30 years. Imagine. And I can tell you, I'm sure you felt like a little kid in a candy store. It's like, this is so cool. My first time hearing something that everybody talks about that I never hear. And now I got one. So, and of course, higher activity and solar activity is helping out tremendously for the higher frequencies. So congratulations, Steve. Pretty cool. Dwight, nice to have you here from Pittsburgh today. Pretty cool. It's a lot of fun to, do all of this. What else do we have? What else do we have? Let me just try to find where I was. Okay, here we go. Thomas. Oh, wait, I forgot. Utilities, U.S. Coast Guard, Miami operations, U.S. Coast Guard, Kodiak, and so on. Absolutely. There's a lot of those still happening. 0-100 uses the SDR Play RSPdx, which is great. Brent, just down the road in Ottawa. Cool. Khalid, nice to have you on board from Riyadh. Pretty cool. John Beckham, send love to Paul and his girlfriend. Here, I think I got a picture to show you guys about that. Here's Paul, and is this one. I want to say hi, by the way, on email to Richard Lemke in St. Albert, Alberta, Canada, saying hello. Nice to have you on board, my friend. It says cool weather, and the gutters are cleaned out. Cool. You're ready for winter, man. Let me just show you guys. That was taken about 2 hours ago. Was this one? Yep, 2 hours ago, roughly. Here's Paul and his girlfriend. So that was as it's getting colder, she's spending a lot more time indoors, actually. So what else do we have? What else do we have? Zenfaro 6604. Yeah, right now actually it should be on. Let's tune it. Let's tune it here. That's right. 6604. Upper sideband. Anything here? Here we go. Three, 4, 8, 5 also. Ten zero 51. I think the best is 6.604. So that's a Volman station. This one is from Gander, Newfoundland, Canada. You can see the trace right here. 6604. What else do we have? VE3KRP had fun reworking the Russian D expedition team 7P8RU and the Lesotho, Africa. Managed to work them on 6 bands. Oh, this is cool. Congratulations. Dave, heard so many pirates this past weekend. Yeah, there was a lot of activity this past weekend. It's, I think, one of the most active pirate station evenings I've had in a very long time on the bands. I can tell you that. And then I settled and listened to a couple of my classics. I watched Fright Night, the original, with the guy that has the kid that has a vampire living next door. And then I watched Silver Bullet with the werewolf, and the fantastic moment where the sister realizes that the werewolf is the priest. Man, great movie. And I ended up watching Poltergeist. And you know what? I watched Poltergeist. That movie might be 30 years old. I gotta say, for a 30-year-old movie, it's darn still amazingly good. The effects and everything, Poltergeist is just great. So did that and had some chocolate and stuff, and then went to bed. And that was my my Halloween evening, which was kind of cool. I wanted to go out and see if there was some some kids and stuff, but it was raining and raining and didn't stop raining. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna stay in, listen to pirates, and just have fun at home. Ron Hicks, nice to have you here. He was watching Tamitha Skov with the recent space weather forecast. So right now we are in a let me just check it out here, and you guys will probably see it anyways because I'm broadcasting this. So solarham.net. Let's see what it looks like. So we had a solar wind that hit. So this is what's happening right now. K is at 7. K is at 7. It's that red line you see here. And so this is what the auroral zones look like right now. If you're anywhere in those zones here in North America, Montreal is in there actually here, you might see auroras tonight. So stay, if you have dark skies, look at that. There's definitely some activity here. Definitely some stuff happening. Look at that. That's the auroral zone here in North America. Possibilities here. So check it out because that means we could be in for some really nice auroras tonight. K index is 7 right now. So if you guys find it that it's kind of crappy on the shortwave bands tonight, that's probably one of the reasons. I can tell you that. Red Sky, Radio Netherlands was a good station. Absolutely. Gang of 4, nice to have you here. John Beckham says, cheers. I'm drinking a hot glass of green tea. That's cool. With pomegranate. That you know what? Actually, in a cold winter evening, that sounds great. It's like hot cocoa, but that sounds great. Ron Hicks, nice to have you here. KM4LDI. We have 000 KD2ANN in New Jersey. We have Stephen Wood in Cape Cod. What else do we have? Holy Unaware says, who wants to be the 50th liked? We're at 63 now. So actually, that probably worked. Scott Lambert, nice to have you on board. And it's always a pleasure to have you here also. SoCal in Ramona, California. Nice to have you here. Paul says you had the first frost on the car windows this morning. So it's starting. Then the next step for that is what? Snow on the ground. Yep. You know, yesterday was this close. It was about 4 or 5 Celsius, maybe, some like in the 30s. And we had some rain yesterday. And I was going at the groceries. And it was not snowing, but we had some ice pellets. So it's like halfway through. It's like, it's not snow, but it's frozen stuff. Kimberly, K6YYL, nice to have you on board from California. And like you said, there's a CME that hit today from an AM class solar flare and a G3 class storm in progress. So cool. Upload your videos. We want to see that. We want to see everything that you actually do in the context you do. Nice to have you here. George Hill, nice to have you here from Scotland. Pretty cool. Alex, the best. What's happening? Shortwave radio, man. That's what's happening here. Matt says Radio Thailand signal just dropped off sharply. What else do we have? Let me try to go down. Barry, good evening. Nice to have you here. Joseph Simmons just got his comm radio CR1 out to play. Have fun. That's, the important things is to have fun. I realize when I do my reviews and talk of radios, because I know that I've had a few comments of people being offended at what I think of a radio. And it's purely not, there's nothing personal in a radio has this flaw. It's an observation when I compare it to everything else that I have. And when you have hundreds of radios, you start knowing when the radio's deaf, when the radio's not good or overloads or, But a lot of people take it personally. It's like, I bought this radio and I love it. And you're saying it's crap. Well, look, I'm just saying what my observations are all about. And don't take it personal. If I say a radio should not be purchased, you might not agree, and it's fine, because depending on where you live, that radio might be okay. A great example is the ICOM SCR30. I do not recommend this to anyone, but I realize that If you live in a rural area where signals are weak, it's probably performing okay because it doesn't overload from all the signals. You have to be in that situation. The reason why I might be hard, because you might say, well, why are you so hard? Is, yeah, because I got other radios that don't overload in the same situation that are half the price. That's why I'm so hard with a receiver. And you got to stop taking it personal, because if I say this radio is bad or not that great, I'm not attacking you personally. I'm just observing from what I have. But you have that radio, you own it, and you're happy with it. Don't let anyone with his own opinion dampen your pleasure, because a review is a review and a look at a radio is a look at a radio. My opinion is honest and always very fair. If a radio isn't worth it, I will just blurt it out. And I'll go back in time before I did all of this. I've purchased radios, and an example I'll give. I purchased a Radio Shack DX398. The Radio Shack DX398 was the Sangean ATS 909, the original one. When I purchased it, I was happy to own it because I thought it was a great radio and it was beautiful and it was nice and it was a nice big portable. But when I read the reviews were bad about it because it was deaf on telescoping and stuff. And I remember looking at the reviews and like, well, I purchased this for, it was like on sale at like $200 or something, and thinking, well, I'm happy with it. That review isn't good or whatever. It's like, and you realize at some point it's like you're getting offended by somebody else's opinion on something you own. And you shouldn't be. You should be just looking at the critique, looking at the opinion, and just observing or making observations on your own. But you know what? If you're happy with it, don't let anybody else's opinion change that, because it doesn't matter. You're happy, and that's all that counts. When somebody tells me, well, you got that thing and it's crappy, it's like, I love it. I don't give a whatever. I was about to say a bad word of what you think. If you aren't happy and don't want it, don't buy it, and who cares? I'm happy with it, and I love that thing. And that's how you should be. Just love whatever you love about whatever radio and whatever device you own. The rest, is everybody else's opinion on it. And don't let it change what you think and how happy you are of owning something like that. The R30 was the best example of having a lot of rant. I got a lot of rant. I got people not following me anymore because they couldn't understand why I was so hard on the R30. And they took it personal. But they don't understand one thing. What I say here on this channel makes a difference about who will buy something. And I know that. If I say this is the best thing that you can buy, people are going to buy it because they trust my opinion. So I have to be careful about what I'm going to say, how I'm going to say it. And if I say something is good, I got to abide by it, and I got to be fair, because I know people will buy it based on what I just said. So the R30 for me was, yeah, but that's here in Canada, it's $1,000 radio. It's not worth it, that price, in my opinion, because of all that's happening here. If you live in the middle of the forest, you probably will be happy with the $1,000 R30 because it won't overload and you got all these signals. If you live in Toronto and Vancouver and Montreal, that radio is going to be so crappy, you're going to waste $1,000. And I'm trying to explain it correctly. But unfortunately, people are sensitive. They purchased a radio, and I say it's, I can't tell people to buy one. There was one example on the Shortwave channel, and I said, look, I'm happy because the guy was very happy with it. I know. And the reason I stepped in is like, he was so positive that I just wanted to make sure that people understand there's flaws on that radio. And he was unhappy that I stepped in for that. It's a very complex thing. It's personal opinion, but it's not just personal opinion. Somebody told me, it was like, you're just bashing it. No, I'm not. I would be the first one to say it's the best radio in the world if it was. Because I have it. I own one. And I tested it with, other radios. But when you turn on a $200 realistic scanner from 1990 that is more sensitive because it isn't overloading compared to a $1,000 R30, how can I be positive about it? I can't. And I have to be fair. Because everything here was always be fair. That's why I'm always reluctant from getting radios from people. That's why when somebody sends me a radio, it's like, you got to be ready. I hope your radio is good because I'm sorry. I'm not, nobody's going to, change my opinion. I'm never going to sell my soul because you give me something. That's never, ever going to happen here. If a radio is good, it's good. And I'll say it bluntly. If a radio is bad, get ready. I'm going to bash it like crazy because I want to make sure that you making a choice will make a good choice. And what you get and what you buy is something going to be happy with, not something that you're going to come back and say, well, you said this thing was good, but, it's the crappiest thing in the world. You know what? The day that's going to happen, I'm not going to do this anymore. That's why I prefer buying my own radios. When you buy a radio, you can crap it out if you want. You purchased it. Who cares? Hey, yes, the same GN-ATS 909X2. It's not a bad radio. It's not what I mean when I talk about it in a negative way. It's decent. It's very beautiful. It receives and receives whatever you want to receive. It's going to work. But dang, if you're going to sell me a $300 radio, come on. In 2021, you better be good at it and you better do it well. Because I'm going to actually dish out all the little details and things I don't like. People are saying, well, you love that H501 and 909. You know what? There is a negative thing. Have you listened to 10 meters SSB on those? There's a wobbly SSB on 10 meters. I don't know why. On above 25 megahertz, SSB is wobbly. There's something weird in those radios for that. They're not perfect. They're not perfect, but the majority of the rest of what it does it so well that you just balance out what's good and how is the negative, because every radio has a negative side. Every single radio has a negative side. No radio is perfect. It doesn't exist. There's no radio, if a manufacturer would like really to sit down, we'd have to look at all the positive and negatives of every radio out there and bring out the perfect radio. And it doesn't happen. No radio's perfect. Some are darn good. Some have been darn good. Some are still good from 30 years ago and amazing. But there's always a little something negative and some point and some tuning and some aspect of it. Nothing can be perfect, and you just gotta understand, exactly what are you looking for. But if I talk about a radio in a negative way, do not be personally offended, because I'm not going at you. I'm not, you know, that's it. Giselle is like, pointing me and I'm the guy. No, the radio, the radio. I just want to, share my honest opinion so that if you decide to buy one radio, well, you're going to have an idea of what's good, what's bad. And of course, don't just take my opinion. Go around. That's what I do. I have several sources of reviews that I look at what people think of radios, because we all look at different aspects of radio also. I mean, some people are very technical, so they're going to look at the very technical points of radio. Some people are more of a certain listening thing. They'll listen to international broadcasts only, and they'll have their opinion because of that. I'm more of I listen to everything and let's check it out and perform everything around it in different frequencies. I'm not a radio god, but I want to be as fair as possible, and that's where I don't want to. I'm not hurting. I don't want to hurt you and your opinion on it. It's not. It's not what I'm doing. I do not want you to be offended by that. I just want you to understand that when you get to a point where somebody might buy a radio based on your own opinion, I want to have the be as fair as possible with whatever is available, so that if you get something, if you buy a radio based on what I thought, you're going to be happy with it. And I will not sell my soul, or I've had opportunities. People tell me, it's like, well, you could have had opportunities and do this and do that. Why? Why should I have partnerships with anyone? Because let's be fair. If I get a partnership with a company, how fair can I be in my reviews? I'm sorry, but I do not believe that you can be fair. And I never thought you could be really fair in a review when you have a partnership. And that's why I always refused. I am fair to a point where I don't care if a company that gave me a radio will never ever send me one again because I was negative about the radio and said my opinion on it. I will be very fair on this. I don't care. If I am negative about something you sent me and you're mad, hey, keep your radios, because they won't change my opinion. I will never change who who I am, and what I say. Whether you give the radio to me, whether I purchased it, I don't care. That's the way I am, and that's my promise to all of you. If a radio is good, it's good. If it's no good, it's no good. I don't care if it's cost $2,000, if it's given to me, or if it's a $30 radio. I will be always as fair as possible, and that will never change, because that is part also of having fun with shortwave, is also having fun with equipment that it doesn't have to be expensive, but it can work really well. And there's some great radios out there that aren't that expensive. Did I push the H501 like crazy? Nobody will say that. Yes, I love it. But how many times I always say, well, the Texan PL 330 is very like a third of the price and is pretty amazing. How many of you purchased the 330 and are like darn happy with that thing? This is what this is all about. Not just having fun with shortwave, but having people out there that can look and say, you know what, this guy, I trust what he's going to say, and I will buy that. That's it. Nope, Angpar. The majority of what's on shortwave is single sideband, but international broadcasts are in AM mode. Simon Rickson, MLA30. Yes, what do you want to know about the MLA30? WF7I Homebrew. Past weekend's CQ Worldwide SSB was one of the most fun contests he's participated. It was amazing. I mean, the amount of signals and everything, it was just great. 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 Hey, Glenn Zekman from Tennessee. Red Sky. Whoops. I hate it when it does that. How will Elon Musk's Starlink satellites for worldwide internet access affect shortwave? It won't affect shortwave because they're above the shortwave, the ionosphere. What it will affect, and the frequencies used are like in the gigahertz. What it affects is astronomy. When the thousands and thousands of satellites are out there, astronomy is going to suffer, not shortwave. Zenfaros, wow, just switched the antenna over the FRG7 to the satellite 800. 5085 is only S6. So that one goes for the FRG7. Make sure your antenna connections are good, because satellite 800 is pretty good also. And each radios behave differently also with the different types of antennas. So, but FRG7 is a known great radio of the good old days. Matt says, hello, Richard Lemke. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Joseph Simonis says, years ago, I heard Art Bell in 10 meters. He was a big ham radio guy and started coast to coast AM. Yeah, a lot of radio guys were ham radio operators also. Absolutely. Yeah, Paul and Mignon. Absolutely. Jetcrafter hearing hams on 1916 kilohertz lower sideband in Maine on MLA 30. Cool. Ron Hicks has yet to hear KBC on his Texan. You should. You should. It depends on the days. Can make Z70 1976. Paul sometimes is nice. Sometimes he's like a bitch. We'll say it. Angpar, when shortwave uses SSB, is it both USB and LSB? SSB is one or the other. It's not both. So it's either upper sideband or lower sideband. Utilities, if you remove ham radio, everything, 99% of all on shortwave is upper sideband. On AM bands is above 10 megahertz is upper sideband, below is lower sideband. Exception is one band, which is a 60-meter band. And there's a few little things in lower sideband in general. Is there a way to tell? I just said it. I just pretty much said it. John Beckham, thanks. As I was very nice picture of Paul and his girlfriend. Mark, love that Paul. Oh, man. So, yeah, Poltergeist is, it's 40 years old. I said 30. It's 40 years old. Absolutely. 40 years old. Absolutely. Barry, and it's 40 years old, and it's apart from the fact that it's a big 26-inch CRT TV when the ghosts come in, for the most part, it's still amazingly good. Barry says, funny thing here, Jill, you're on shortwave right now, sort of. My external speakers for my laptop quit, so I am feeding sound into a Grundig G3 on line in. So I am on a shortwave radio. That's good. That's good. Oh, man. Yeah, 40 years ago. Stephen would watch The Son of Dracula. Salut Martin de Belleuil. Ma sœur, décédée du cancer, était radio-amateur. Elle a habité à Belleuil dans les années 80, au début des années 80. Elle avait sa tour d'antenne avec son Yaesu FT101 il y a très longtemps de cela. Paul says the starting satellites, not sure how I feel about them. My gut tells me not so good. The idea behind it isn't bad. And it's not going to, like I said, it's not going to interfere with shortwave, but the astronomy community is not going to be happy with thousands of satellites up there, for sure. Matt says, "Holy crap! Solar wind is 766.7 kilometers per. It's not per hour; it's per second. By the way, I don't think I've ever seen it measured at such a high velocity. Yeah, and it's not even per hour; it's per second. So, pretty strong. If you have dark skies and you live north, check for auroras tonight. I can tell you that." Okay, Tom BXer, nice to have you here. Starlink is really pissing off astronomers. Yep, absolutely. It's going to be like on Futurama, like Paul says, Futurama, when they have these big space billboards with ads in them. You know, how long before that happens? I can tell you. Barry says, just say no to snow. I like snow, and I want a big snowstorm. I'm happy with big snowstorms. I know. I'm crazy. I love big snowstorms. Well, that's because I don't have a car. Oh, man. Mickey Dalmage. Mickey Dalmage, nice to have you here. From where are you? Yeah, some people like Duran Duran. Absolutely. Well, not the latest album. It's kind of crappy, but some people like Duran Duran. Nice to have you here, Mickey. Are you still in Saskatchewan? Was Manitoba? Saskatchewan. Manitoba. Well, I'm trying to remember where you were. You're not back home. Let's say it like that. Ron Hicks body PL8080. Seen several reviews, including mine. Yeah, you know. When does that mean when radios get overloaded? Well, like any electronic device, when signals are too powerful, the radio's electronics can't cope with the signal coming in. So think of a radio. So a radio gets a signal. Sorry, guys. So a radio gets a signal and it amplifies it. And that circuit that amplifies it has, depending on the quality of the circuit, has capability of dealing with a certain strength of signal. What happens is when a signal is too strong or very strong, I and receiver will cope with it because it's capable of dealing with whatever strength signal it's getting, and it's just going to cope with it. But most radios, especially portables, they're meant to be used with the telescopic. So they push the sensitivity to the max with the circuit they have. And portables are cheaper in price, so they made compromise. They had to, make it the best they can with the money they had to invest in that circuit. What's going to happen is if you use an outdoor antenna, for example, a portable might overload. And overloading simply means that they've built that circuit of amplification up to a certain threshold. And if it goes more than that, the radio's electronics is going to display some weird artifacts. It's going to do weird things. It's not going to break the radio. It's just that 2-3 signals can mix together. So, for example, one of the most common ways of overloading in a radio is you're listening to a signal and there's a very powerful signal next to it. Both of them will be mixed in. So you'll hear the audio of both on the same frequency. Why? Because the signal of one of them is so strong that the electronic circuit just can't cope and it's all mixed in. And like I said, it doesn't break the radio. A lot of people are asking me, can overload break a radio? No, it's not. It's not going to break a radio. It just does weird things in the radio itself. If it's another way that you can see how overload affects the radio, the R30, for example, the ICOM R30 I'm talking about, is desensitization. It means that your radio has this sensitivity, but there's a very, very powerful signal just near where you're listening. And what happens is this overall amplifier is so overwhelmed that the sensitivity goes down. And that means a very powerful signal here. Sorry, guys. Very powerful signal here might make the radio deaf. That's what happens with the R30, actually. When signals appear so strong, the radio gets deaf, and you have to use RF or attenuators or lower the RF gain in order to get back some of that signals. So that means that, for example, a weak signal here, you might not hear it because a powerful signal here desensitizes the amplifier, and so the radio becomes deaf. This all has to do with the quality of the electronics and how the amplifier and the RF amp and the radio itself has been designed. That is where you see a difference. That is where you see that a tabletop $1,000 radio copes better than a less expensive radio. You know, the other thing that I get from time to time is people saying, "Well, you know, you're not in the real world because tabletop receivers are so much better." I am in the real world. I got an ICOM SCRD 500. That's a $2,000 radio. I own the Kenwood 5000. I am totally in the real world of understanding what you mean. My R8500 here doesn't desensitize on a strong VHF signal like the R30. It's going to stay perfectly sensitive and give me whatever I want. Yes, of course, I do understand that $1,000 receivers have a certain edge because they won't react to overload. They won't display weird artifacts of electronics because of strong signals. And, you know, they have bells and whistles that you might not see on cheaper radios. But here, I'm not here to talk about $1,000 radios because that's not what this channel is all about. This channel is about a lot of people buying what they can afford. And for the majority of people, what you can afford is not a $3,000 radio. It's a $100, $200 radio, maybe. Let's try to get what's the best in there. And honestly, in 2021, sub $200, sub $100 radios are a million times better than what we purchased in the 80s as portables that cost $400 or $500. And that, I can tell you, a PL like the PL330 is a better radio than many multi-$100 radios we had in the 80s. So we got to be fair also here, is that we live in an age where technology has reached a point where for a price that is affordable, we got better performance than 30 years, 40 years ago. and for half the price. And I'm tired of people like, oh, well, you don't know what you're talking about. No, I know what I'm talking about. I own big gun radios, and I've owned so many portables of the 80s. They were all okay. But you compare that to a PL330, they're shitty. I'm sorry. In their own way. Okay? They weren't bad. They were receiving my Panasonic RFB 300 was a good radio for the time. But then you look at today's radios that don't drift and have calibration and have, look at what you got today for half or a third of the price or a quarter of the price. And that's where I'm at. I'm not at the price point of, oh, well, those radios in the 80s. No, I'm not there. And by the way, I'm not abiding with, well, oh, they were built so well in the 1975. It's like, no, I'm not there. They were nice. They were nice for what they were. They were built like 1975 or 1980 or 1985, and they were great. And there's some great radios in there. There's some exceptional values in there. Sony ICF 2010, for example, stuff like that. Panasonic receivers are darn good. But I just want to say one thing. It's like, if I had a choice between one of those 80s radios and a modern receiver, and it's the only thing I can own, I'm going to go for a modern Texan. I'm going to tell you that without even hesitating 2 seconds, because they are so much superior in so many ways of these old radios. The old radios, not they were bad, because a lot of them were good, but drifting and all sorts of things like that doesn't even exist today. Drifting, I don't even know what drifting is. Actually, a newbie in the hobby today, I don't think it knows what drifting is and what it was actually. Drifting? What are you talking about, drifting? I tuned that thing and it stays there for 8 hours at the same frequency. Yeah, I know. It's not that the radios were bad or at all, or it's not that I refuse to see the good ones of the past or anything. It's just that we got to see that, honestly, there was such an improvement in technology, radio technology over time. Somebody told me the other day you're a Texan fanboy. It's like, I'm not. If Texan makes a bad radio, well, I'm going to tell you it's a freaking bad radio. I'll be very fair on it. I will be very, very fair on it. I don't owe Texan anything. But it's the major manufacturer of shortwave radios today. Has anybody realized that Texan is the biggest manufacturer of shortwave radios these days? So we got to talk about them, because that's what we have. Somebody coming in the hobby today, what are you going to get? You're going to get a Sony? No. You're probably going to get a Texan or some Chinese other radio like XH Data or CUadon or whatever. But Texan is the dominant one. Go on Amazon, type shortwave radio. Texan is darn dominant. And they've reached that level. And they've been able to reach that level for a very simple reason. They're not just aggressive. Is what they do is decent enough to merit and to have people saying, you know what? You do some darn good radios, guys. And yeah, it's made in China. I'm not going to go there because too many people are China bashers. Look, that's the world we live in. You're not going to buy a radio because it's from China. That's your thing. Just don't buy it. I'm going to tell you, 99% of what you buy is made in China in some way, if not all of it. So, yeah, let's not go to the politics, because, yeah, we all know what China is. But let's just stay where we are and what we stand for and what we are as passionate of radios. And that is, I want to have a darn good radio. What I'm going to choose today. I don't have a radio. I want to get a good one. What will I buy today? Sony and Panasonic aren't there anymore. And, St. Gian, yeah, but it's made in China anyways. And unfortunately, they missed the boat on the X2. They could have done so good on the X2. They could have fixed what the X and original 909 was and made it incredibly good. They missed the boat. Somebody out there just doesn't know what a shortwave radio is all about. Some engineer that's like, I know what a radio should be, and probably never actually, because you know what? You can design a shortwave radio without ever knowing what shortwave is all about. And obviously, some people at St. Gian didn't know what it was all about. That's the difference between, yeah, I have a lot of talking tonight. Okay, what else do we have? Khalid, I enjoy when I see someone criticizing things about my devices or gadgets in order to take another point of view that does not match my desire to see from his point of view, also the devices he likes. I mean, Rob says, never sell your soul. Zed Faros, MLA 30 Plus is annoying me. The usual AC adapter for bias T has a ton of QRM tonight. But if I use a power bank, it loses a lot of gain. It shouldn't. Because if you have the same voltage in, it shouldn't. There's something not right. That power bank is not giving it the same power. Because 5 volts from a power bank and 5 volts from whatever other power adapter you're giving, no difference. Mark, as an engineer, I appreciate a straight refusal. I want to know the nuances from a pro who spends many more hours critically reviewing it than I ever will. Keep up the good work. Thanks, Mark. WF7I Ombro, your reviews are always seem fair to me. You're honest. You tell it like it is. Well, because I got nothing to gain to tell you that a radio is good if it's not, Dave, radio reviews are indeed subjective. I love my HDR 737 has a nice straight pocket. Jill correctly reviewed it as a underperforming in some aspects. Once again, that HRD 737 probably suffers from my location. I've seen a lot of people being very happy with it. And it makes me realize, like the ICOM SCR30, if you live in an environment where it's not overloaded with everything around it, with signals, it might not be that bad. Because I think it's one of the problems of a lot of radios being too sensitive without having the capability to cope with strong signals around it makes them bad in a situation like I am. But better or good in some situations. That K180 loop, which was a loop that went from long wave to 200 megahertz or something like that. When I positioned it next to the shed in the backyard, the shed is a big metal shed here. It kind of created some kind of a Faraday cage or shield for some frequencies. I noticed how better it was on shortwave, for example, than it was when it was my front balcony. And that's where you see that the K180, some people own it and probably are very happy with it. But it's, I got to be fair, because some guy will buy it in a big city like I live and might not be happy with it. So, if you cope well with signals here, if a radio works perfectly here, man, that's a good radio, because, it doesn't overload with FM outbreak and so on. Man, that radio is like rock solid, because it's in the worst environment it can be in right here. If I tell you a radio is good, it has to be good. It has to be good in every situation. It's crazy. Yeah, even the person is not perfect. Absolutely, Khaled. No one's perfect. Yeah, somebody comes here and says, yeah, I'm perfect. Yeah, right. Rob says, indeed, as an artist, I agree. There's no perfect, not here on earth or anywhere else. In fact, we may be here and now because of imperfection. Aha. John Beckham, I am partial to Radio Wow Company featuring the HH Data D808 and the CD1 D808 portable shortwave radios. Wholly unaware. Speaking of perfect radios, has anyone heard of any update on eventual release of Ethon Elite Satellite? I haven't heard anything about that radio in such a long time. I'm starting to wonder if it's ever going to happen. San Faros, regionals reviews so far, entirely all of them except one. That's pretty good in my view. Which one? um, Rob says, I always admire Joe's honest opinion on radios or various computer topics. Look, I'm not here to, I don't work for anybody. I work for myself. I work for my audience, for what I have to say. Why should I be, you know, why should I be sleeping in bed with a company for any reason? I'm not making more money because I tell you this is better than that. I'm not making more money in any way because I sugar-coated something. I am going to make as much money just saying what I have to say, because my money comes out of YouTube, not from big corporate companies that want me to say what they want me to say. And that I don't want to be that. I don't want to be the guy that, I get, here I got a few requests, and which I declined. On my tech channel, I got a lot of requests. On my tech channel, I got so many requests of you should review this or that or talk about this, including requests of, we're going to give you this amount of money if you talk about our product. Nope. I don't want to have your money. For me, that's dirty money. It's as if, Texan would come up to me and say, we're going to give you $1,000 if you talk positive of our new crappy radio. That's dirty money. That's selling my soul, and that is unacceptable for me. And that will not happen. And that's my pledge, and it's going to continue being my pledge. Because, I get radios given away from time to time. But I will not change my opinion, and I will not be fair or say a radio is good because somebody gave it to me. And that will never change. And like I said, if you never give me a radio again because you're not happy with my review, so be it. I don't care at all. Being fair is what I want. Being honest is what I want. That's it. Mark, let's face it, the longer you own and use a radio, you'll eventually uncover all the flaws and weak points. Jill just does it faster. Yeah, because of course, I probably use a radio in 1 week more than what people do in a year. When I get a radio, it's like I test out like all the different little points in a very, very, like in a day. In a day, I already know half of the problems with the radio. Joseph, my ICR 8600 is damn near perfect. I find nothing wrong with it. Yes, it is expensive, but oh well. Yeah, it's a different type of radio. It's a different type of radio. I will give it a negative point. You know what? It's expensive for what it is. That would be the negative point. For the rest, I don't own one, so I can't say much. but I'm sure it's a pretty good radio. You know, I got the 8500 here. What is interesting is once you have an 8500, which it's a great radio. It's honestly, it's not what it could be on shortwave. The ICOM ICRD 500 here that I got, when I compare that to the Kenwood 5000 I owned, it's not a Kenwood 5000. On shortwave, it's okay. It has flaws. It has, it doesn't perform like it could for a $2,000 radio. On VHF, UHF, I got nothing to say. Honestly, it is the best VHF, UHF receiver I've ever owned. So I can't compare it with anything else. When I got it to SDRs, that's where my ICOM just is unused anymore. I got to tell you one thing. If I have to choose one radio here, what are you going to keep? Because for the rest of your life, that's the only thing you'll ever own. I'm going to keep my RSPdx. And my ICOM ICRD 500, look, it's going to go away. That's all. I am going to keep my RSPdx. And that thing is, you know, 10 times less expensive. RSPdx is $200 versus a $2,000 radio. And I will keep an RSPdx. Imagine. That's where you see that, you know what? Certain things are, you know, I'll be fair. And on shortwave, the RSPdx is great. On VHF, UHF, yeah, there's an edge on the ICOM ICRD 500, but that edge is so small that the waterfall and what the SDR is all about is so cool that I am going to accept a trade-off of performance versus features, because the RSPdx has features that I can't say I'm going to stop doing that. So I will take the trade-off. And I learned enough of the RSPdx on VHF, UHF that I know how to play with the RF gain and everything to still get the same signals. Because the thing here is, and that's where I'm not anymore in $2,000 radios, is that the RSPdx, there is no single signal you get on that 8600 or that I get on my 8500 that you cannot receive on the RSPdx. And that's where you start thinking we're in a different world. You know, that R8600, that's going to be the last receiver ICOM ever makes. And if I'm wrong, I owe you a beer. I actually owe you a whole evening in a bar or at a restaurant. But I'm pretty sure that after the R30 died, that portable, because now it's discontinued, that 8600, when it goes away, nothing will ever replace that. Because we are not there anymore. And because even though I'm sure it is superior in some aspect, absolutely, we are not at the same place anymore. And those lower cost devices are so damn good that nobody understands why we should now pay thousands of dollars for devices and equipment. So that's my opinion, by the way. You don't have to follow it. What else do we have? John Beckham says, I always told that the best radio was always the one that you liked and nothing else. Absolutely. There was the philosophy of the Circuit City management in regards to selling electronics items. Look, if you like something, you like it. Honestly, that's all. Who cares the rest? Who cares the rest? Jeff King, one of my favorite radios, the CC Skywave says be expensive for what it is, but I really like it. I do think it's not worth it, and that's fine. You know, that's the important thing. You like it, and that's it. It's not that it's bad. I have one. It's not my first choice, but I never said that it was a bad radio. It has its place. The 330 is the Texan receiver, Angpar Texan, which is the pretty much the biggest company of radio now in the world for portables. Refus, I listen to Shell. My wallet gets lighter. Never a bad purchase. Never a bad purchase. Oh God. You know what, Angpar? The Texan PL330 is going to have everything you need in a package that is small, portable, but works amazingly well. I can tell you that. I can tell you that. It's like a lot of you are telling you, a PL330 is a great first radio. Absolutely. A Texan PL330 is a better radio than probably a lot of the first radios we've had in the 70s or 80s as our first radio. So it's just amazing. K6YYL having buffering. I don't know if anybody else is having buffering. Rick, nice to have you here from Milwaukee. What else do we have? You try to get down here. So, anything else? Let me just say hello. Anybody that is joining in that I haven't seen? Jason, nice to have you here from Glasgow. And nice to have you on board. What else do we have? So, hey, Mickey is back in Alberta. Oh, cool. Take a break from my Manitoba adventure. It has been very nice, 10 Celsius days, so I can get the Christmas lights up, ready for winter. Cheers. Tomorrow's intended projects. Cool. Welcome back home, man. Hope in all of that. It's something because it probably has a lot of going to Manitoba was probably a lot of I can imagine all the emotions going with all of that. You know, um, it's something to think about, and it's something to really be careful. I'm just gonna come back 2 seconds, guys, because I heard a noise. Probably heard a bang. I just want to go see. Okay. I don't know what those was, but there was a big bang somewhere. So, anyways, what else we have? So, Jason from Scotland. We have. We have. Vladimir. PL990X. Amazing radio. Can tell you that. It's amazing little portable. You can't go wrong. Hands. VE2SWL is already taken. Yep. VA2 also, I checked. Oh, man. Didn't do nothing. Didn't do nothing. Started with a Clegg FM 27B. Wow, don't even know what that is. Oh yeah, well eBay and most radios sold online today are ridiculous in price. I got to tell you that. Brad, Galaxy Radio Gold equals drifting. Like the radios in the 70s, 80s all drifted. Depending on the price you paid for the electronics, it drifted less or more. But honestly, all of these radios really drifted. You know, it's, absolutely, Ron Hicks. We are talking about shortwave radios like people talk about full bars, football, cars, baseball, whatever. Whatever. Tim Mitchell, what does firmware 3684 refer to the Texan PL368? It's the latest. It's the latest code that's in the radio. So these radios use a chip that has some program in it. It's kind of an electronic, a small computer within a radio, and that firmware actually will dictate how the radio behaves quite a lot. So 3684 is the latest version of it. That's what I have in the Conicom GP7 SSB. It fixes bugs that might have been before and adds features like the calibration of frequency, which was not available before that firmware update. So think about it as a computer. A new operating system comes and adds capabilities or fixes bugs of older operating systems that you had on your computer. The same thing for a radio. So radios today are getting closer to computers than radios because like they're a mix of radio or and computer technology all in one. Popular Electronics, Electronics Illustrated, Radio TV Experimenter, Stereo Reviews, Popular Mechanics, yeah, of course, John Bacon. Kenzo really enjoys his Ethon Executive. I think for the price, it's one of the better portable radios, and that's all that counts. Ron says, I would buy an expensive shortwave radio long before I would buy a fancy flat screen TV. Oh, Zen Pharaohs, the plot thickens. When things get weird, I pull out the trusty R8. Okay, so the power bank and MLA30 Plus are doing just fine so far with the radio. Same cables, so a bit of puzzler here. Yeah, it's almost as if it's not the same power because on the MLA30, the bias T gets 5 volts. The amplification and the box on the MLA30, that's where there's an up conversion to 12 volts for the circuit. So if you have a different performance with different adapters on the bias T, what's interesting here is there's something different between the different power sources. Because I mean, voltage is voltage. If you have 5 volts, you have 5 volts. That's kind of interesting here. I can't see a difference there. Apart from the fact that you might be bringing in more noise on a certain adapter, for example. Matt, MDK2 said there's a guy in Denver who used to have a show called The Troubleshooter where he was a consumer advocate, but he started taking money and making endorsements and fleshed his credibility. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, there are people that do that, that's what it is. And they do a show or they talk about something and have endorsements of companies that are in that business. I personally don't like that type of you know, I don't condone it. I mean, that's what you are. It's okay. What I mean by that is I will not necessarily buy something that you tell me to buy because you have all these big gun companies telling you, you know, advertising and having you talk about them. So for me, if that happens, it's something I have a hard time with. You know, I admire some reviewers that I see online, and I like them all. The N9EWO is one of them. Um, Dave Zantow, he's a great reviewer. I like the reviews also coming out of I mean, what's the other place? I forgot the name here. It's let me just find him here. It's radio reviews. So Dave Zantow and 9EWO is great. Radio J Island. I kind of like his reviews also. What made me a little cool on Radio J Allen reviews is when I saw that Sanjian on their main page had, oh, this was reviewed by Radio J Allen. I never want any company to post this was reviewed by Gilles on his official Shortwave channel. Never, never. I don't want any company to use that. Ever to post that on their main page. Ever, ever, ever. I do not want to see my name on a company's radio page. I'm not saying that he's not fair, and I'm not saying that his reviews are not good, and I still look at his reviews. But when you see a company taking the name of someone and saying, hey, we got reviewed by him, for me, it changes my minding of, is your review really fair, and have you been paid in any way for doing it? It doesn't mean that your review can be okay, but it makes me think, well, okay, so what you said is, is it because somebody paid you for it, or is it an honest opinion and they just said, and I'm not saying anything like that. I'm not saying anything bad about Radio J Allen. I'm one of the first guys that loves the reviews he does on his webpage. I just don't want to be associated with anybody saying, hey, he talks about our radios. No, please don't put my name anywhere there. Okay. I don't want to have my name near anything like that because it makes me look like a fool. It doesn't make me look like some guy that's honest in what he does. I'm sorry, but I'm not a corporate guy. I'm not a corporate, crawler. I'm not going to go and beg for money for some company. I've never been that type of guy, and I will never be. That's it. That's all. What else do we have here? Lauren Smith says Bob Harness and I were two of the first in the US to get the AOR AR 5000 radios when they came out. Good times. Cool. That's for sure. As Khaled says, you can forgive some flaws if the price is low, but the criticism increases as the price increases. Absolutely. The more it's expensive, the less I will let, bad things go by. That's for sure. Ron Hicks, do you think they make quality and expensive shortwave radios in China so we can listen to our CI? It would be more like China Radio, CRI, China Radio International. That's probably what you meant. So China Radio International. Who knows? Government paid text and receivers for us to listen to China Radio. Hey, I don't care. Those radios are so good. Bring it on. Scott Belcher, nice to have you here from Kentucky. John Hummel Newell, V5GHN, nice to have you on board. Did I see JHN? Scott Walls, I grew up on shortwave in the 60s and recently returned to it, but there is such a shockingly small lack of stations. Even DX and the tropical bands seems like there's a lot to chase. In the tropical bands, there's not a lot of stuff, but there's a lot more stations than you probably have heard. It's just that what is striking is that, especially in North America, since stations don't broadcast towards us anymore, we have to use the stations that broadcast to Africa or Europe that are audible here. So with the noise level, it's a challenge. It's more of a challenge, but there's still a lot of stuff. To give you an idea today, okay, I've heard Voice of America this afternoon, NHK Radio Japan. I've heard AWR out of Advanced World Radio out of Madagascar. I've heard Radio France. I heard Cuba. I heard Brazil later in the afternoon. I heard Radio Prague and Radio Slovakia via WRMI. So, there's stuff to listen to. It's just, very different, though. And that's true. We can't pretend that it's like in the 80s. It's not. It's a more of a challenge today. And that's also where people might not be here. Some people that were program listeners enjoyed the ease of listening of the 80s, but might not be interested in, but it's more difficult and I just want to listen to program. Yeah, you're not, that's not what shortwave is for a lot of people, especially today. What else do we have? Watch Ball the cat pop up in camera. What else do we have? Rest guy, thanks for your reply. With Starlink, I was thinking maybe. No, because satellite. Here's the thing, Rest guy. Where you are at is at the minding that internet is why shortwave is declining. And I'll say it. It's my opinion, but I'll say it like I'm pretty sure, in my opinion, that the internet has nothing to do with the decline of shortwave. And here's why, okay? First of all, shortwave was declining way before the internet existed. So anybody that listened to shortwave for the past 40, 50 years stations were slowly disappearing from the bands in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, way before the internet started to be something. It accelerated and was more of a decline when the Cold War ended, because that divide of the East and West for a lot of countries meant I don't have to explain who I am anymore and my point of view to the world, because we don't have the divide anymore. There was a lot of, when the wall fell down and the USSR became Russia, there was this thinking that, hey, we won and everybody's equal and there's no more barriers, and which is untrue and never changed. It stayed. It was always there. It was just different. It's still there today. Plus, there are tons of barriers of different countries around the world. What has changed? Iran is Iran 40 years ago, like it is today. Russia is worse than it ever was since the USSR fell. I mean, the world is still greatly divided. That nothing has changed there. There are all sorts of things that happen, but when I hear Israel making raids on Palestine, I have the impression of sitting down as a teenager in 1983 and hearing the same dumbass news report of that happening. How has the world changed that much? It hasn't really. It hasn't really. But for some reason, that East and West thing also precipitated how shortwave declined faster. Stations, for some reason, didn't think that their ideology, their way of life, and what happens was important anymore to talk about on radio. Shortwave radio declined in the 90s a lot. Not even because of the internet, because it wasn't still, the internet before 2000 is not a thing. Even though people started getting on the internet in the 90s, late 90s. Let's face it, before 2000, the internet is non-existent. We can say that. So it can't be a cause of decline of shortwave because it's still not there. And when we get into the years 2000, if the internet is such a powerful thing, why aren't big gun broadcasters that left on the internet? Why is HCJB not doing its thing on the internet? Why is Radio Netherlands not being a big internet presence? Because that's not where it was going. That's not where the shortwave broadcast is going. That's different. The internet is the internet. When people tell me, oh, I can hear stations from the Netherlands on the internet, yeah, in Dutch. There's pretty much nothing in English, and it's certainly not Radio Netherlands style. That makes me laugh. Everybody that tells me is like, yeah, but all these countries on the internet. Yeah, but they're local stations we can't understand. There's no effing station in Norway I understand on the internet since Radio Norway is left and there's no English anymore on Radio Norway shortwave. Yeah, I'm going to hear Norwegian whatever talk. I don't understand a word of what they're saying. Of course they're on the internet. Yeah, Norway's on the internet with dozens of channels in Norwegian. Do I understand Norwegian? No. That's where the minding of people thinking internet kills shortwave. They just don't understand what shortwave was all about. because that's not what it was. A lot of it has to do with ideology and politics, of course. Radio Moscow wasn't there just to be there for fun. It was there to try to say that, hey, USSR life and Russian life is wonderful. Like Voice of America was there to say the American life is the best in the world. Like Radio Canada was there to say, hey, Canada is the best country in the world. Like Norway trying to say, hey, we are here and this is our way of life. That was shortwave. The decline of shortwave comes in a very different way. Let's face it, okay? The first one is with ups and downs, the solar cycle and all the stations there, we have to understand that the average person listening to shortwave, that was interested in programming, eventually found it kind of difficult to follow the stations and try to continue listening into their programs somewhat. Broadcasters saw a declining in audience. You know, HCJB, when they left, I still remember one of their last broadcast shows they did kind of a show to kind of tell us why, tell us goodbye and all of that. But one of the things I still remember from that broadcast is their listenership, the amount of letters coming from North America to Ecuador, HCJB, was less than half of 10 years before. People were leaving the listening hobby of shortwave. Part of it also probably has to do with what is we are crazy people. Do you guys realize that? I got noise level this high and I'm still stubborn enough to listen to that little signal just above it. And it's like, oh, I've got Thailand. I'm a crazy person, like all of you. We are a different breed. Everybody that's here is a different person than the average shortwave listener. We keep our hobby alive. We know there's stuff out there, but I would be interested to see a graph. Noise level, declining audience. So as the noise increased, the audience decreased. And that would be a very good graphic of why a lot of people left. And there's so many other things, who was the shortwave listener back then? Who are shortwave listeners of the good old days? Life and all of that. It's a complex thing. But if the internet was a killer of shortwave, the decline would be internet, shortwave. It was more like, this is the internet. Okay. This is shortwave before the internet, with the internet. It just follows the same curve. It's not accelerating. The internet didn't make things go faster. It probably follows pretty much the same curve. And if the internet would have been there only in 2010, that curve would have continued. And I don't think any of these stations would have changed. Any of these stations would have, all of these stations would have left shortwave at the same time that they did today, even with the internet not still being something. So to just end with the satellite constellation, it doesn't change anything on internet itself. And the satellite internet is just another way we will connect to the internet, and that's it, pretty much. You know. Okay. Do I own any AOR radios? Nope. I did look at them quite intensely for a while in the 90s, but nope. Hey, Dwayne, take care. 73. Stay safe. Always nice to have you on board. What else do we have? Yogi, yeah, well, we had solar flare. We have the solar activity that's kind of increased, not solar activity, but geomagnetic activity kind of increasing. Let's check out the latest solar hand report here. So we are at the K7 level of activity. This is what it looks like right now. So if you guys want to be watching auroras tonight, I think it could be, if you're in a dark sky, it could be. So, you know. Paul Steckler, Santa promised a PL330. Aha. And Santa looks like him. Well, that is a good Santa. That's a good Santa. 6050 Dave is HCJB in Quito, Ecuador. The only station, the only frequency still left from Quito, Ecuador from HCJB. What else do we have? Yeah, the more things change, the more they're the same. Absolutely. 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 Yeah, Radio Netherlands was great. So what else? What else? Jetcrafter has 6105 booming in Maine on his Conicom GP7 with the MLA30 loop. Cool. Cool. Yeah, Radio Netherlands was great. So hey guys, how about we end the night in a little bit of nostalgia? You guys want to have nostalgia tonight? How about that? We're gonna go down with a few stations and listen to some old broadcasts a little bit. Hey Prasad from India, nice to have you on board. What is Diwali Day? What's Diwali today? What type of celebration is that, Prasad? Let us know. Yeah, well, nostalgia for those of for those of us that have been there for a long time. Okay, let's start with. Just go here. Let's start with. Let's check out what's here. Okay. So this is from September. Let me check it out here. Okay. September 26th. September 26th. 1982. And let me just make sure that. Yeah, it's not the right. Here we go. Let me just put the right output. And so Radio Netherlands from the this is Tom Mayer Happy Station Show, Radio Netherlands. And this is from September 26th, 1982. Take care, Keegan.
On Shortwave from Hilversum in Holland, this is Radio Netherlands, the Dutch International Service. It's Sunday, and time for the Happy Station Show, produced and presented by Tom Meyer.
Thank you, John Beckham.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everywhere. And welcome once again to the Happy Station Show. And if I sound as if I have a cold, I know I sound as if I have a cold. I do not have a cold. I only sound as though I had a cold. Well, welcome to our show on this 20-something or other of September. The 26th of September, of course. Yes, and we recorded this show on the 21st. I almost never tell you the date of recording, but I have to today because the 21st, of course, was the official beginning of autumn. I won't go on lamenting about autumn because I've done so often enough, but I just wanted to tell you what the date of recording was so that you'll understand if we're in a bit of a mood. To make it even worse, things were not too bright anyway on the 21st because it was really sort of, and dark, and although the temperatures lately had been beautiful, I will never forget that on, when was last Sunday, the 19th, I was having dinner with friends down the road because their daughter had celebrated her birthday, and as we left, which was 10 o'clock at night, it was still 21 degrees outside. I mean, on the 19th of September, incredible, especially here in Holland. I also met a lady the other day who comes from the United States, who lives in Florida, which of course is yum. And she arrived, I think, on the 19th or the 20th, and she said, well, I had been watching the weather forecast for Europe, still being in Florida, and she'd seen that the temperatures weren't too bad out here, somewhere up in the 50s, she said, and she thought, wow, that's probably just a spell of Indian summer, as they call it. And then, of course, when she got here, it was up in the 80s. And she brought the wrong clothes because everything was too warm. Okay, well, anyway, welcome to the show today. And I think I can simply say that it's your traditional and usual team once again, because, of course, Rosemary is there. But Coach Stevens seems to be our traditional technical man every Sunday now, Co. No, I don't think so. You don't? Well,
So that's Radio Netherlands. Here is a Radio Moscow shortwave broadcast from December the 3rd, 1978.
Our helicopter hovers over a deep, narrow gorge between mountains that seem unscalable from above. Here it is, the Nyon River. And here's the bridge you are building, says the first pilot. Victor Roscoe speaking to two passengers of his helicopter, Noy Indavong and Vladimir Zhuravlev. In a few hours, we will be saying it's a bridge that has been built. Later,
this is nice.
Meeting. The crowd shouted
the woodpecker interfering with Radio Moscow.
Builders who contributed in their special way to the 3rd anniversary of the People's Democratic Republic of Laos, having finished a month ahead of time the work on the bridge. Traffic has now opened on the highway bridge in Hua-Phan province. A bridge of friendship. This is how it was referred to in Laos since the work began. The bridge stands on the legendary Highway 6. During the war, cargoes went along it to the liberated areas. When there were heavy tropical rains, the Nyon River rose and the communication between its...
Of course, there's a Radio Moscow mailbag.
And to answer your question,
this is your program, Moscow Mailbag. And here is Joe Adamov to answer your questions. Michael Brown of Santa Ana, California. Recently, we have a new form of entertainment in the United States. This consists of male strip shows in which male dancers disrobe until they're naked in front of women patrons. On a moral level, would this kind of entertainment be allowed in the Soviet Union?
Can you be
The answer
naked
to that
in the
is certainly
USSR?
not. It is not our idea of entertainment, any more than sexual
I
acts
love this.
performed publicly
I
at
love this.
nightclubs. I know that you do have this sort of entertainment too. But it's not for me to criticize your way of life. But since you've asked the question, I'm answering it.
Oh, God.
If you can have male strip shows, I think the next logical step would be, why not legalize prostitution, for instance? Why not? Why not legalize houses of ill fame? Why not?
Why not?
I will say this, though, that
Why not?
we are a collective society, but we feel there are certain aspects
not?
of life which should remain private, and sex is
Oh,
one of them.
man.
Mind you, I have criticized our own people, too, for being too prudish. But what you quote, the type of entertainment you quote, I think is going a bit too far.
On a cultural level, would Soviet women find something like that of interest?
What?
All depends on what you can call
What?
culture.
Hmm.
If you lift the
Soviet
barriers,
women
you will
seeing
always find a few
Male strip
a few
shows in
that would go
Moscow?
in for something.
Why
like
not?
that. That doesn't mean you got to have it, mind you. Many would want to see barriers to drug addiction lifted. Why do you apprehend anyone that would deem it necessary to walk down Fifth Avenue in the nude? I'm sure you'd find plenty of adherents of this sort of thing, too. You know, back in the 20s,
That's the
we had a
best
society
Joe
called Down with
Adamov mailbag show.
Inhibitions. They thought it'd be okay walk down the main street naked. Why not? To sum it up, I think there should be sensible barriers.
Naked with your shortwave radios.
To answer your question,
Let's do
I'll
that.
say this. Put to a vote, I'm absolutely sure the overwhelming majority of our women, and I'm sure that quite a lot of yours too, would vote against this sort of thing.
Yeah,
Tom
right.
Sowell of Alexandria,
Yeah,
Virginia. I was wondering if anyone ever immigrates to the USSR and what are the restrictions?
That's good. Anyone immigrates
Tom,
to the
we have no
USSR?
immigration laws as you know them, no immigration quotas. Each case is considered individually by the presiding committee of
Who
our
wants to
parliament.
go to the USSR?
You ask, has anyone ever immigrated to the Soviet Union? Naturally. We have
Really?
Americans right here at Radio Moscow. I suppose the
That's
biggest
not
wave of
immigration.
was when approximately 200,000 Armenians came to settle permanently in the Soviet Union from many countries of the world, and including America too.
Oh, man.
Ron Tull of Whitehorse, Yukon Territory, Canada.
Really?
Are
Somebody
the
from
gas
Yukon
prices high in the
Territory?
USSR, or about the same we are paying?
Hello, Ron, all the way up in Whitehorse, Yukon. How did you get up that high? But let me tell you that you're not alone. Out on the 60th parallel, we have a city called Leningrad with a population of 4.5 million, and it's just about on the 60th parallel. And Moscow's only a few hundred miles further south. So you're not alone up in Whitehorse, Ron. To answer your question, the price of gas, according to the official rate of exchange, would be about equal today. Not long ago, we doubled the price of gas because it takes a lot of doing to extract it in the inaccessible parts of Siberia, where there's a lot of permafrost and marshland.
Patrick Powers of Webster City, Iowa. Does the Moscow subway operate 24 hours a day, like in New York?
Well, let me say hello to a fellow broadcaster. Patrick is an announcer. Hi, Patrick.
Oh, God.
Our subway stops running at 1 a.m. Mind you, we have no nightlife as you know it. And
Yeah,
if it did run,
you got
round
no
the clock,
fun.
I'm afraid they'd have very few
It's
passengers.
nothing to have fun
at
in
night.
USSR anyways.
If we stay here at Radio
We go to
Moscow
bed at
after 1
10
o'clock, we
p.m.
either go home in our own car. If you don't have a car, that you get what you'd call a company car to take you home. We have cabs available all
God.
night. And you can
This
phone
is
for one
great.
if you want to.
Is Moscow the only city in the Soviet Union that has a subway system?
Oh, no, far from it. We have 7 cities with subways. Moscow and Leningrad have a subway. Kiev and Kharkov in the Ukraine have subways. There's a subway in Baku, Azerbaijan on the Caspian. Tbilisi in Georgia has a subway, so has Tashkent in Central Asia.
Well, that's an interesting one. Okay, what else do we have? May 23rd. Whoa. Okay, wait. Let me check it out here. Okay. Radio Berlin International broadcast from July 1st, 1990. Now that's shortwave. That was shortwave was sounded like at the times. Hey, Chastang, nice to have you here. Oh, wow. Cool, Matt, MDK2. How was your trip? Did you enjoy your trip when you were there? It must be something to see, though. I would be happy to go and check all of that. It must be quite amazing to visit Moscow, St. Petersburg, and all of that.
International, the voice of the German Democratic Republic, invites you to listen to a special program on this important day, which will be recorded as unique in the annals of German history.
Take care, Brad.
Our program today is centered upon the coming into force of the economic and monetary union between the two German states and the effects it will have. People will be telling you about their plans, their hopes and fears, and we'll be giving background information to the whole process of introducing the West German Deutschmark into the German Democratic Republic.
I'd like to, even today, I'd like to visit.
So this is
It must be
Jean
quite
Jones
amazing
handing
to
over
see,
to our newsreader.
to see all of that.
First, the news headlines. Both German leaders, Lothar de Maizière and Helmut Kohl, have hailed the coming into force of German economic, monetary and social union as an historic event. The Soviet Union and the United States indicate their readiness to compromise on the disarmament issue as the NATO summit this week comes into sight.
That definitely was a
ANC
different
Deputy
time on
President
shortwave, I
Nelson
can tell you
Mandela
that.
has arrived in Dublin for the next leg of his world tour. And ANC General Secretary Arthur returns home to South Africa after 26 years of exile. And now the news in detail. Both German leaders, Prime Minister Lothar de Maizière,
You know what? You can understand why shortwave was such an important thing back then. Look at all the information you get from all of these stations, where everybody wanted to know what everybody else had to say of world events with all the things happening in the Cold War.
And there were good chances for development.
And the internet wasn't there. Here is. Let me just check it out. Let me try it. Okay, so here is Radio Sweden's Saturday show of March 1978. Ouch, what is that?
Some people hate Radio Sweden so intensely that they never miss a single program.
Oh yeah, John, absolutely. Every station in Europe wanted to broadcast to North America.
Was put together in 1937 by two lumberjacks working in tandem over a period of 41 hours, 15 minutes, timed with a real crystal watch. What?
Those were the headlines. Now, the impossible gossip behind the news. Doot, doot, doot. Across the world, in Sweden, the Saturday show has begun!
Doug Noble says Radio Berlin and Radio RSA both went off at the air pretty much at the same time.
About trousers. Yeah, that's right, trousers. Fascinating subject, isn't it? Trousers.
Trousers.
The fellow must be nuts.
Radio Sweden presents another victory for sane Swedish bureaucracy.
After years of standing, running, jumping, and sitting committees, the Stockholm County Council's Health Department has announced that all female employees in Stockholm hospitals may wear regulation trousers if they so wish. The current white coats will be phased out, and the council will provide jackets and trousers free of charge.
No, well, not immediately, I would say. According to our own contingency plan, we can do it by the year 1999 and a half. Or if you prefer to be more exact, as the computer would have it, 1999, 1 day, 2 hours, 3.23 seconds.
Fascinating, Mr. Kratt. Now tell me, Mr. Kratt, how did the Stockholm Council Health Department arrive at this brilliantly enlightened decision, this logical decision?
Let me explain. A series of extensive time and motion studies did undoubtedly sway the outcome of our deliberations. We were particularly interested to see if there would be an increase in the number of employees getting their apparel.
Apparel?
Good word, yes, very good word indeed. Apparel, or clothes, if you wish, caught in our swing doors if we went over to trousers.
Oh, so you mean that the swing door goes round and the
that's
trousers...
right, yes, and it whirls them around.
Yes. What happened?
Well, we tested the sample of 1,000 and found that 1%, mind you, got stuck. And 1% did not get stuck. Rather interesting, don't you think?
Here is the last English shortwave broadcast of Swiss Radio International that was done on October 30th, 2004. Final minutes of last shortwave transmission of Swiss Radio.
Why, we'll just have to overcome it. The pressures are too great. So what's it to be? Or not to be? That, as they say, is the $64 or 64 Swiss.
Yeah, Radio RSA become Channel Africa, RGA Dakota, but they changed their focus. Radio RSA is for the world. Channel Africa became focused on just the African continent.
To this final series of programs from Swiss Radio International.
John, I can remember a beautiful blonde teacher with a red dress and driving on a white Volvo back in '73 when I was so young and naive back in Sweden. Station we all miss pretty much a lot. Here is from 1986, December 31st, 1986, Radio Australia broadcast.
Followed at 8:40 by the latest sporting results. And then a bulletin of world news at 9 hours UTC. At 8:30. I would
Overseas service of the Australian Broadcasting Commission, Radio Australia.
$10 claims were noted in Lend-Lease and Jennings, which closed at $10.60 and $1.80 respectively. Banking securities suffered. The most notable change was a 14-cent decline in ANZ to $5.60, helping push the index down 16.1 points. On the resources side, gold securities lapped to 10 points. Central Norseman at Montana Minerals slumped 20 and 26 cents each to end at $14.90 and $7.24. But Poseidon closed 10 cents better. Ampol Exploration and Australian Oil and Gas improved 5 cents apiece to $3.40 and $2.30 respectively. The All Resources Index crept up 1.1 points to
because of the shift to the right of all the major political parties. A total of 40 Australians from the non-Labor states of Queensland and Tasmania have been
That
included
sounds.
in the Queen's New Year's honours list.
That voice,
Queensland's
actually, I
Chief
remember.
Justice becomes
That
Sir
sounds
George
so much
Penrose,
like Radio
and the
Australia of the
State Treasurer
time.
becomes Sir Leo Hilcher, while the head of Queensland Liver Transplant Unit, Dr. Russell Strong, has made a companion
Radio
of the
Australia's
Orchid Street
transmitters
Micro
were
in
at
St.
different
George.
locations. There was one in
In
Shepparton.
Tasmania, the only other
There was
Australian
one
visitor to claim the British honours
in
system. The
Melbourne.
highest award was that of
And there
Commander of
was
the British
another
Empire,
one
former Mayor of
in,
Launceston,
what was the
Donald
transmitter sites?
Vincent.
Shepparton,
The former Speaker
Melbourne,
of the Tasmanian Parliament, Maxwell
and
Thomas Bushby, was awarded
I'm
an
trying to
order
remember
of
the other
British
one.
Empire. This news comes to you from Radio Australia. Australian medical researchers have come up with more evidence supporting the theory that a low salt diet can be an effective weapon in fighting high blood pressure. The National
That's a good
Health
thing
and
to
Medical
know.
Research Council's dietary salt study
That's what
has
they were
found that
talking about in
people with mild
1986.
high blood pressure can be significantly helped just by switching to low salt diets. The fall, because of the new diet, could then reduce the need for blood pressure pills. The chairman of the study group, Professor John Chalmers, says people with high blood pressure should have a low salt diet, but this means more than just cutting out salt in cooking and at the table.
So what else there was? Radio, which one here? Radio Sofia, Bulgaria in 1975.
This is Sofia, Bulgaria, calling Africa. This is Sofia, Bulgaria, calling
Carnarvon,
Africa.
Darwin, also, yeah.
Radio Sofia broadcasts in English to Africa every evening at 19:05 hours Greenwich Mean Time in the 16 and 25
When
meter
stations
band,
had Greenwich Mean
and
Time
at
rather than UTC.
21:05 hours Greenwich Mean Time in the 16, 25, and 31 meter bands.
And there was radio. Let me check an old one here. From, come on. Was an old recording of this here. Radio Prague, Czechoslovakia from 1973.
Radio Prague, Czechoslovakia.
Hello and welcome once again to Radio Prague. First, here is a resume of our program contents today. We start off with the news, followed by topics of the day, a roundup of radio and press, news and comment in Czechoslovakia today. We continue our half-hour program with this week's report on science and technology in Czechoslovakia. And to conclude today's broadcast, we present our regular Wednesday Listeners' Tribune. Well, we wish you pleasant listening with good perception, and we start with the first item, the news from...
Just the sound sounds like, what it was back in the day. What else do we have here? Radio Peking from 1968. Before it was China Radio Today. Before it was all of that, there was Radio Peking.
Media People's Court has sentenced the...
That sounds so shortwave from the days. China Radio International sometimes plays this interval signal still today in some little interlude. It doesn't happen often, but I've heard it in recent years a few times. As if they're trying to kind of say that they're the same broadcaster. But Radio Peking, which was Radio Beijing when I actually QSL'd, and China Radio International today aren't the same thing at all. China is not, although it's still communist, still changed quite a lot also.
That is Radio Peking.
This is Radio Peking.
And then we have another little thing here about, here is Radio Moscow World Service from 1981.
Radio Moscow can be found on 17 frequencies.
17 frequencies.
13, 16, 19, 25, 31, 41, 49.
What stations can tell you today that they're on 17 frequencies?
13, 16, 19, 25, 31, 41, 49, and 500 meters.
Take care, Barry. Radio South Africa coming up.
This is the North American service of Radio Moscow. Here's the news. The Soviet leaders, Leonid Brezhnev and Nikolai Tikhonov, have congratulated the people of Mongolia on the 35th anniversary of a treaty of friendship, cooperation, and mutual assistance between the two countries.
Oh, that's true, Matt. You got me there.
To the Mongolian
Brothers
leaders,
there could have been on
they said that
17 frequencies at
cooperation between
once.
the two countries
Absolutely.
have been steadily developing in the past 35 years and have become all round. Soviet-Mongolian cooperation in the political, economic, and other areas was a major factor of peace and stability in Asia and the Far East. In their message to Leonid Brezhnev and Nikolai Tikhonov,
Leonid
the
Brezhnev.
Mongolian leaders
Oh, man.
underlined that the consistent implementation of the Treaty of Friendship by the two countries serves the interests of socialist and communist construction.
Socialist and communist construction. Here's Radio RSA South Africa that was on 15380 apparently. Dang, this one brings me back to when I was a teenager. Nah, man. I love that interval signal. It was nice. At least we can all say that it was more interesting to listen to Radio Moscow than Brothers There at any time. So there's no date on this one. There's a frequency, 15380. But he didn't post any dates as to when this broadcast was done.
Is Radio RSA, de stem van Zuid-Afrika in Johannesburg. In die Radio RSA, Liula South Africa, kutoka ku Johannesburg. In Radio RSA, sauti ya Afrika Kusini kutoka Johannesburg. Hier ist Radio RSA, die Stimme Südafrikas aus Johannesburg. Vous êtes à l'écoute de Radio RSA, la voix de l'Afrique du Sud, émettant depuis Johannesburg. Esta é Radio RSA, de voz da África do Sul, que vos fala de Joanesburgo.
Oh, that was a multi-language ID here. Just I know morning sessions on Radio Moscow.
RSA, the voice of South Africa, broadcasting from Johannesburg. Dit is Radio RSA, de stem van Zuid-Afrika in Johannesburg. In die Radio RSA.
I don't remember the multilingual IDs like that. That must have been before I listened. I don't remember. I remember the interval signal, but not the multi-language IDs. Okay, let's go to the program. Happy New Year. Whoa, did they say Happy New Year? Really, they had a book on the joys of the apartheid system.
Wishes all our listeners all over the world a very happy and prosperous New Year, and may peace and goodwill prevail.
No, it's a Happy New Year episode.
Sharing Johannesburg and wish other people all over the world happy New Year. 11714-0240. That's 11714-0240 and 11714-0242.
Telephone numbers again, 11714-0240.
So you could call in to Radio RSA at that time. Wow.
We are broadcasting to America and Canada on 17805 kilohertz. That's 17805 kilohertz in the 16-meter band. And also on 15380 kilohertz in the 19-meter band.
Wow.
To Europe, Central, West, and North Africa, 15520 kilohertz in the 19-meter band and 11900 kilohertz in the 25-meter band.
And to East and Southern Africa on 7270 kilohertz in the 41-meter band. And now we cross to our French colleague, Bernard.
Radio RSA souhaite que ses auditeurs par le monde prennent et que l'année nouvelle vous apporte paix et bonheur.
Oh, it's in French now. Multiple Happy New Year. Oh, wow.
Notre numéro de téléphone est le suivant. 11 714 0238. Répétons. 11 714 0238. Leurs fréquences sont en ce moment pour le Canada 17 805 kHz dans la bande 16.
Oh, that was in French. Okay, how about this is July 7th, 1989. DX party line from HCJB.
Lots of DX reports from our listeners and more. Just a quick, let me think now. I think it's about an 11-hour drive, if I remember back, from last July, Popayan, Colombia. And that is where Yimber Gaviria lives, our faithful reporter to the DX party line. And Yimber has a few more loggings for us.
There must be something better than that. HCJB from a recording. Let me just check it out here. Saludos amigos. I remember that. Saludos amigos. Well. Okay. Anything else here? Just want to see. So, of course, there was this one here with
DX Party Line. This is a program for DXers by DXers and about the DXing hobby. We invite you to stay tuned for the next 30 minutes to the DX Party Line.
Oh, they must have been. Kelly Cheta says, I'm sure international dialing costs at RSA was astronomical. They were astronomical in our own country back then. Remember when these companies were screwing us up with the long distance calls? Hey, I remember like doing long distance calls at like 2 in the morning to make sure it cost the least amount of money back in the 80s.
It'll be hard for us. We're going to miss being on the air twice a week for DXers and shortwave listeners. But we do appreciate all the contacts we've made, all the friends, and your contribution.
So, hey guys, yes, it's that time, 3 hours, and I hope you enjoyed the show today. Had a lot of fun doing it. We're going to be back on Saturday, the last show before we change our time in North America. Europe, it's already changed. Hope that you enjoyed the show tonight. And we're going to be back with another show coming up this Saturday at 20 hours Universal Time, 4 p.m. Eastern. And it has to end, Chaz Tank. I can't do 24 hours of this, you know? Hope that you enjoyed the show today. It was a lot of fun, actually. A lot of nice discussion of shortwave. Going back in time a little bit. And pretty cool to have all of you here. As usual, I hope that you guys enjoyed. So stay safe. And I think we're going to have a lot of fun. I'm going to have a little drink, listen to shortwave a little more tonight. Might be posting a little more about what I'm hearing on the bands. So thanks, everybody. And hope that you enjoy. It says, no, be like those kids on Twitch that do 24-hour streams. 24-hour shortwave listening. Live. We're gonna do a like, you know, when they do the these PBS pledges, you know, like it's like 24 hours a day. Please help us if you can. Here are the ways that you can send your donations. We'll be here 24 hours if we, you know, no sleep for a week. So, okay, take care, everybody. Stay safe. And yeah, nostalgia in the air with those older marathon. Yeah, that's what I was searching for as the name. I'm gonna do a marathon. It's like, you know, do you know here at YouTube Shortwave channel that we entertain you every day of the year? Well, this comes at a cost. Please, if you can, pledge a donation to help this continue. Please do so. So I'd be good at it, actually. It's like I should be one of those guys. It's like, do you like PBS? Have you enjoyed the show Flowers with Kite and our newest addition to the show, How Do You Learn to Do the Internet? These cannot be done without money. Your donations will help. And in addition, if you do donations today, we will send you the book, How to Listen to Shortwave 2021. Stay safe. Take care, everyone. Always cool to be here, and see you Saturday at 20 UTC. Bye now.